What's up, YouTube? This is your girl, Megan. Welcome back to my channel, to all of my returning subscribers. However, if this is your first time joining me on today, welcome. It is here that we use information from celestial bodies to help us gain a better understanding of our favorite celebrities, world events, but most importantly, our damn selves. So with that being said, thumbs up this video. Join the family, all right? Don't be scared. Mash that subscribe button. And yeah, let's get into today's topic. So today, as you can see by the title, we're going to be doing a highly requested reading. I've gotten a lot of requests just throughout the years to cover this person, and it's going to be on the artist Soulja Slim, aka Magnolia Slim. I think that was his original name, Magnolia Slim. So, for those of y'all who are not aware, Magnolia Slim, Soulja Slim, was from New Orleans, okay? And he had a lot of music. I know a lot of people around like the New Orleans, Texas, Mississippi area are very familiar with him. In fact, a lot of people have drawn comparisons between him and Tupac over the years because it's said that he is the South's, or more specifically, Louisiana or New Orleans version of Tupac. And I mean, he was, really well known, very popular, and ended up getting gunned down tragically and had his life taken from him. Now, I'm going to be honest, okay? Growing up, I remember hearing of him, but the only song that he had that I really knew and that I will go up for is the feature with Juvenile. Whoa, I like it like that. She working that back. I don't know how to act. Slow motion for me. Slow motion for me. Slow motion for me. Move it slow motion for me. Oh. Well, he say, cut through the hair like a brand new version. Or was that his verse or Juvenile's verse? Whatever. I liked it. That's the only Soulja Slim-ish song that I know. Y'all drop down in the comment section with your favorite Soulja Slim songs. But I was drawn to do a reading for him just because he seemed like a very interesting person. And just over the years, I have done my own homework in terms of just researching who he was, his discography, what he meant to a lot of people, and what his imprint was on music, specifically, that New Orleans brand of rap music. I think he also worked closely with BG, and y'all may know him because he was associated with Cash Money Records. I think he did spend some time at No Limit Records with Master P. So he kind of had connections all over the place. I'm going to give a brief rundown in terms of his Wikipedia page, and then we're going to hop right into the reading. Now, if you don't care to listen to the Wikipedia article, just skip through straight to the reading so we can get straight to the point. So here we go. Soulja Slim, who was born James A. Darrell Tapp Jr., was born in New Orleans on September 9, 1977, to James and Linda Tapp. He was raised in the Magnolia. I gotta say it like that. I love the way New Orleans, especially men, talk. The Magnolia Projects, and attended Cohen Senior High School before dropping out of school in the 11th grade. He began selling drugs as well as forming an addiction to heroin and cocaine. By 93, he was rapping as Magnolia Slim in venues and block parties in the projects. His first recordings, however, would be on Parkway Pumpin', an independent label run by legendary producer KLC, and also featuring 39 Posse, Fiend, Mac, Mystical. Mystical's the only name that I recognize in this lineup, okay? Soulja Slim's solo debut was released in 94 on Parkway Pumpin' and Hype Records. The album did really well. And then it just basically talked about how he, went independent and blah, 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 blah. He also, once again, ended up working with No Limit Records and then parted ways and did his own thing. And he had like a lot of ups and downs as far as that was concerned. Now, Soulja Slim was also very highly revered in the streets. A lot of people talked about how he hung out with a lot of killers. And I mean, allegedly committed crimes of his own. And at some point even was arrested, spent some time behind bars. And so all of these things are happening, I guess you could say, simultaneously between like him living in these streets, living that life, and then actively working to pursue his rap career, right? Now, skipping over to the death portion, it states that Tap died on November 26, 2003, after an assailant shot him 4 times, 3 in the face and once in the chest. Damn. On the front lawn of the home, like at his mother's house, right? And basically, there was a 22-year-old dude named Garrell Smith who allegedly was, accused of committing a murder. They didn't have enough evidence. New Orleans and Chicago both kind of have those two things in common in terms of being such high crime zones where people can commit murders and literally nothing happen. Like, because the authority system is like overload, and the only thing you'll really be able to rely on is witness testimonies and people in those communities, or just, the code in general, but especially in places like Chicago and New Orleans. People are not dumb enough to put their life in danger to stand on trial and tell on somebody. It's just not going to happen. It's a death sentence for you. It's a death sentence for your family. Like, nobody's going to do that. So more often than not, when people commit crimes, they get off scot the fuck free. So this dude got off scot free, or so he thought, but was found gunned to death on August 13th, 2011 himself. And, who's to say if that was a direct result of him allegedly killing Soulja Slim? But I mean, let's just kind of put 2 and 2 together. Like, when you're caught up in that lifestyle, I mean, it really could be anything, but whatever. So with that being said, let's hop right on into Soulja Slim's chart, shall we? So as specified earlier, he was born September 9th, 1977. And right away, him being a Virgo made a lot of things make sense. One of the most common observations I've seen other people make of him who were around him, who worked with him, who knew him, they pointed towards him being a workaholic. And this is the first comparison that I would even like to draw between him and Tupac, in the sense that they recorded a lot of music. Okay, a lot of people said things like, wow, every time I saw Soulja Slim, he was either going to the studio, coming from the studio. While he was in the studio, it wasn't really like playing around. Everybody else would just be there kicking it, partying, maybe recording a song or 2 if they're lucky. He would literally be like hyper focused, zoned in, knocking down like track after track after track after track after track after track after track. Very similar to a lot of people's recollections of Tupac. So when he actually passed on or transitioned from the earthly realm, he had a lot of unreleased music. And so as a result, his team was able to put out a few posthumous projects. Now, in cross-referencing this with Tupac's chart, Tupac actually had his Pluto in Virgo trining his Saturn at the 29th degree of Taurus, which could have produced or led to him feeling so driven and work-oriented and just all around driven to make lots of music. The same thing could even be said with his Venus at the 5th degree of Gemini in conjunction to that Saturn at the 29th degree of Taurus. So that could be him writing a lot of music. But when it comes to Soulja Slim, this could actually be a direct result of him being a Virgo sun. And not only was he a Virgo sun, his sun was at the 17th degree, okay? And he had his Mercury at the 8th degree of Virgo. The number 17 technically does reduce to the number 8. So we're dealing with like a double dose of 8 energy tied into that Virgo energy, which can absolutely produce a hard worker. A lot of Virgos have the tendency to be busybodies as well, or people who even have like Mercury influences. And it's also worth noting that Tupac actually was a Gemini. He had a lot of prominent Gemini / Mercury based energy. But with Soulja Slim, it's more so on the Virgo side. And I would say Virgos tend to fare better. And I'm not, 100% certain of this, but just theoretically speaking, it would increase the probability of Soulja Slim actually completing a lot of the task that he started, as to where Tupac had a lot of music that he recorded, but a lot of it was incomplete. A lot of it was unfinished. And that's very Gemini. Start something, lose interest, and move on to something else. Really scattered brain, all over the place. And Soulja Slim, on the other hand, maybe had more, completed, well-rounded projects or bodies of work that were available after his transition. Virgos are very focused. A lot of people would like to refer to the Geminis as being the talkers, but then Virgos as being the doers. Virgos are all about productivity. They're all about efficiency. They are task masters, especially with his Mercury at that 8th degree of Virgo as well. And that number 8 energy in tandem with this Virgo energy could also even point towards where he kind of gained or developed that militaristic like persona for him to even be called Soulja Slim, right? Virgo can deal with the military, all right, military personnel. So can the number 8. So being a soldier, being very, once again, militaristic. When you think about the military, they're very routine. They're very focused. There's a lot of discipline involved. And that's why it really benefited him to have his sun at the 17th degree and then Mercury at the 8th degree. Now, the only thing about that is that Soulja also had his sun and Mercury square Neptune, which would have posed a really big challenge, especially in terms of a person who, really struggled to stay on task, specifically due to things like it could just be distractions in general. But moreover, this could be drugs and alcohol. And as stated in the Wikipedia article, the man was addicted to heroin, and cocaine for a good little portion of his life. And in fact, was not even able to complete school, high school, which is also indicated with Mercury squaring Neptune. Okay. These are also people too. I noticed just even from a personal standpoint when doing personal natal chart readings for clients, even if they're not cocaine or heroin addicts, Mercury squaring Neptune can just produce a person who has a difficult time concentrating in general, right? These are your daydreamers. They're not really good students. The ones who are doodling in their notebook while the teacher is giving lectures, like that kind of thing. And that's because these are people who are more right-brained in nature, and they learn and process information in a very non-linear fashion. So, and I always say I've never seen a dumb Virgo. And, based on how people describe Soulja Slim, he wasn't dumb at all. But by traditional means and methods, like they don't really learn like that. Based on how his sun and Mercury was aspected. So he could have definitely fit into that mold as well. Now, aside from his addiction issues and his inability to complete school, the square between his sun and Mercury could also deal with him living a life where, he could have been selling drugs as well, engaged in shady activity, double dealing, and even things like jacking cars with Mercury squaring Neptune. I wouldn't be surprised if he was a thief, if he had stole some things or whatever the case may be. Now, this could also even deal with his jail stint, especially with the sun squaring Neptune. That's a very common aspect for a lot of people who can get caught up in jail or the criminal system. These are people who can also easily be very institutionalized. Soulja was also a Leo moon. He actually had a stellium that included his moon, Venus, and even Saturn at the 23rd degree of Leo. His Venus was at the 14th degree. So with that in mind, this is a huge reflection of how a lot of people came to know him and the main reason behind a lot of his notoriety. A lot of Leo prominent people, especially when we talk about the moon and Venus, the moon a lot of time can deal with a person's public, perception. And then Venus can also say a lot about a person's social life and their likeness a lot of these people are just really popular. People are naturally drawn towards them. Leo is also the sign of the entertainer. So we look at a lot of Leo moons as being natural celebrities. You know what I mean? Especially when it comes to in their neighborhood, in their community, in their hometown. The same thing could also be applicable to people with their Mercury in Leo as well. And another fallen rapper who kind of had this effect was Young Dolph. Okay, everybody in Tennessee really loved him. He had everybody in Memphis sold. People worshiped the ground Young Dolph walked on. And I kind of get that same vibe with Soulja Slim. And once again, to cross-reference Tupac, this is another reason or another similarity that he has just energetically Tupac, given that Tupac was actually a Leo South node, which carries a very similar energy signature in terms of a person who has a lot of karma, and in many cases it's past life karma, but it could even be like early life karma rooted in, being popular, being a celebrity, being a big shot, you know what I mean? Being someone that a lot of people know, a star, and someone who's just naturally really, really talented. These are people who can be really flamboyant. The things that, once again, Pac was known for, even being dramatic. And so when we talk about Soulja Slim and that moon in Leo, I could see those similarities. They probably, in terms of personality-wise, kind of operated on the same level. Even watching some of the older videos of Soulja Slim, he seemed very animated. A lot of Leo moons can be animated. Once again, just really bold personalities. These are people who are the life of the party. Really silly, very childlike. Everybody talked about how he had a crazy sense of humor. And with his Venus forming a sextile to his Pluto, and even his Libra North node, he left a lot of really good impressions, and he really influenced and shaped and molded the lives of a lot of the people around him. He even put on a lot of people. One of, the rappers he ended up putting on or had an instrumental role in their career, and I actually love this man, is Currency. Okay, I don't know how many Currency fans I got out there, but, AKA Spitter, all right? And Currency went on to kind of make stoner music. He's not really like a gangster rapper, but I love Wiz, and I know Currency, Wiz, even Currency and Big Crit had like their own little thing back in the day, but that's a different video for a different day, because y'all already know I'm gonna do a reading on Spitter. But yeah, anyway, he ended up putting on people, making and forming relationships with a lot of people, and that's another reason why he was so beloved. His Venus is also trining Neptune at the 13th degree of Sagittarius, which also points towards his profound creative abilities, or, his heightened musical aptitude. He had his Venus sextile Pluto, which once again supports him leveraging a lot of relationships and doing a lot of collaborations, ultimately reinforcing his Libra North node, okay? He had Pluto conjoined to the North node, but, as a Libra North node in and of itself, these are people who are put here to learn how to deal with others. Aries South nodes, which obviously are also Libra North nodes, have lots of past life karma or a lot of karmic debt tied into just a natural inability to either get along with others. A lot of Aries South nodes can be naturally very defensive, or they could be loners. They're people who don't do really well when it comes to keeping commitments, right? Or being accountable to others. They could be selfish. They can also be very stubborn, or the type of people to only have like a one-track mind. And naturally, it's a instinct, a survival instinct, but they're more so focused on like self and gain. They can even be egotistical. But in this lifetime, as an Aries North node, learning how to be more level-headed and leverage relationships with other people and share your talents with other people is the most important. If you ask me, I feel like he definitely fulfilled his North node. So much so that, everybody, we all have our own purposes that we're here to fulfill. And I do believe, just, on a personal note, that some of the people who fulfilled their purpose very early on, or even their nodal lesson, their soul lesson, and there's really nothing else to like expand from there. You come here, you graduate, and you check out. And unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you want to look at it, Soulja Slim was definitely one of those people. This is also emphasized with his nodes being at the 16th degree. Now, for those of y'all who have been, watching my channel for a while, you'll know that number 16 is actually a really, really difficult number. The number 16 could deal with tragedy. It could deal with, just really bad circumstances, catastrophe, if you will. And he has his, once again, Pluto at the 13th degree of Libra. The number 13 could deal with death. It could deal with, accidents, sudden and startling things. So you could look at this as a sudden or startling death, a shocking death, and just him living a very fated life. Pluto in conjunction to the North Node can materialize in an early or an untimely death in some situations, in a lot of situations. Now, this is not to say if you have Pluto conjoined to your North Node, that this is automatically going to be how it's going to materialize for you. Obviously not. But Soulja Slim does have, a lot of other layered nuances that could definitely support that. So once again, the Pluto in conjunction to the North Node, but then also his Pluto being at the 13th degree, and then his nodes just being at the 16th degree. Like I said, that kind of just spells out disaster, impending doom. As an Aries South Node, he was definitely someone who had a lot of violence, and he was in the streets like that. So even when you think about how he died, he actually sustained 3 gunshot wounds to the face and 1 gunshot wound to the chest. And Aries South Nodes, ironically enough, have lots of karma tied to their head and their face. These are people who could sustain injuries to the head and face. They could be burn victims, stab victims, and even gunshot victims, or, fall victim to gunshot violence, or, perpetuate gun violence themselves. So all of this definitely falls very much in line, just with his karma. Even when you think about Aries on the South Node, that's another placement that could support him living a tough life, a hard life, but the life of, once again, a soldier. You know what I'm saying? Somebody who is almost like they carry themselves in a way where, maybe in the past life, he literally was someone who was in the military or engaging in combat and warfare. He has his Mars at the 5th degree of Cancer, conjoined to his Jupiter at the 3rd degree of Cancer. Now, that Cancer Mars deals with, number one, his strong connection to his community. Mars deals with your name, quite literally. So it's no wonder that he started off as Magnolia Slim, being named after his hood. So I thought that was really interesting. These are people who can be very, very connected, like very much like they can have a lot of, like, even in some cases, nationalism or just pride in their heritage and where they're from, right? But it also even points towards him being killed, because a lot of times you could look at Cancer energy as, maybe certain energies that could be lingering near the end of one person's life. And with him being an Aries South Node specifically and dying at the hands of gun violence, you could look at his Mars at that 5th degree of Cancer as him being killed at his mother's house. Okay. Also, him being an Aries South Node makes a lot of sense. And the sense that, he was someone who went through a few name changes. That's also very common when we talk about Aries South Nodes. These are people who could, have either identity issues, people who could change their names at times, and things like that. So I thought that was interesting. And then with his Pluto, once again, at that 13th degree of Libra, conjoined to his North Node and opposing his Aries South Node, you could look at this as also him having a lot of enemies, even despite the fact that he was so beloved. And that is the kind of conundrum that takes place when we talk about Pluto conjoined to the North Node as well. You also have to keep in mind, Libra is the sign of, open enemy. So it's like, these are people who, once again, can leverage and create lots of relationships. They can also be very, very influential in the lives of other people, hence Pluto, very prominent. But just like they can gain a lot of love, they can gain a lot of hate from people, a lot of enemies. And in fact, with Libra being the sign of ambush attacks, that Pluto in opposition to his Aries South Node literally could deal with him being caught off guard, ambushed, in the attack that ultimately took his life. He also had some other interesting things going on, just in terms of his life, right? One of those things being his Saturn placement. Soulja Slim had his Saturn at the 23rd degree of Leo. Now, this could deal with him working in the entertainment business, but moreover, I thought this was really interesting as it could point towards him having a difficult time. A lot of people, a lot of celebrities, even with Saturn in Leo, could have really difficult experiences in the entertainment industry. These are people who could have faced exploitation or have learned some hard lessons, in terms of just like the entertainment business. In fact, with his Leo moon squaring his Uranus at that 8th degree of Scorpio, he could have definitely been, alienated from the industry in many ways. He also has his Leo moon squaring his Chiron at the 5th degree of Taurus. So all of these things could support a person who could have also had issues, with getting the credit that he deserved, especially for his music and his creative licensing. Okay, especially with his moon squaring that Chiron and Taurus, where there could have been money issues. And this could have been a result of either his greed, or you could look at this as the greed of maybe the executives in the industry. And one thing I found to be really interesting is in one of the documentaries I was watching on him, he was talking about how he had to separate from, I guess I don't know if it was a record label or a distribution label, because they weren't really willing to either promote him how he wanted to be promoted, or he just had a lot of issues with mainstream labels and like the mainstream industry. So what he did was separate and started to create his own situation. Like he wanted to create his own record label, kind of take the more independent route. Okay. And that could have also gained him a lot of hate too. Hence his moon, that Leo moon squaring Uranus and Scorpio. And the hate could have been deadly. He could have made some deadly enemies. Now, am I saying definitively people in the industry had him killed? I don't know. But these are things, interesting things to kind of think about. Like, I wouldn't be surprised. It's not like these things don't happen. Soulja Slim's rift with the industry could also even be reflected in his T-square. So he does have a fixed T-square that involves, once again, that Leo moon, his Uranus and Scorpio. So you got the square between those two planets, but then his Chiron, when you add Chiron into the mix also. So yeah, that could definitely create brooding tensions over time, or just symbolize him being really fixed in how maybe he wanted to go about certain things and just getting really frustrated with the process, really frustrated with the industry. But the good news is, his Chiron, aside from that square to his moon, is actually in pretty good condition. For example, his Chiron is forming a sextile to that Jupiter in Cancer, which could deal with him making a lot of money off of publishing, or even his family being able to benefit from, his publishing, hence Jupiter in Cancer. His Jupiter is also conjoined to his Mars, that Cancer Mars too. So that's really good. His family being able to benefit from not only the publishing, but just his name, his likeness. And so, yeah, this concludes my reading on Soulja Slim, aka Magnolia Slim. Y'all drop down in the comment section. Let me know what you thought about him, his music, and what do you think about his natal chart in general. And as always, make sure you practice self-care, self-love, so that you can love others. And I'll holler at y'all in the next video. Bye.